Well, I had another thought, and um, it might be too bad that I'm not expressing this in time because some people have left. But it occurs to me that it's it's helpful when people like me can learn what the best practices are for a particular sort of markup tool. Many have been mentioned, pretext, markdown, MathJax, and so on. And if we could understand what best practices look like in practice, then we could begin forming a notion of sort of a deeper understanding of what's needed. And and when I think about tech, I think about sort of a uh, multi-purposing uh, approach where when you create your document, the authored document, the output could be many different things, and one of them might be a book or a math article, but another thing, might be a computer program that codes an algorithm. And I see that Jonathan just mentioned a proof, which is perhaps even independent of just the notion of a computer algorithm. It's yet a different animal. So my focus has been in alignment with Lamport's for years and years to have descriptive markup for documents, including math. On the other hand, the unfortunate thing is text markup for math is, in a sense, oh, Jonathan, you used the term, help me out here. MathML, not
Semantic and presentational.
presentational. Text notion is entirely presentational, and it just happens to have features that mean that you could construe semantics, but not reliably. So I'm not sure if I've made sense to everyone, but I'm going to stop talking.
I want to say two related things. One is that standard LaTeX has three types of dashes, 1 dash, 2 dash, or 3 dashes on your keyboard. In typography, there are probably at least half a dozen different uses for dashes of different kinds. I never use the LaTeX dashes. I always use a macro. And so, for example, I have a macro for a dash which indicates a range, like a range of numbers. I always use that macro. And I redefine it depending on where it's going, because every journal has different, is it a 1 dash in LaTeX or 2 or 3? Is it surrounded by spaces or not? And so on. And so I always use, if you like, my own semantic markup rather than just the visual thing. And another thing which is related to this is when the Fortran 90 standard came out, it was a big change from the Fortran 77 standard, but almost all of Fortran 77 was still legal Fortran 90. And it had to be for reasons of backward compatibility. But to encourage people to use the more modern features of Fortran, there are two that I know about, subsets of Fortran, which if you write a program and process it through these Fortran subsets, it will complain if you are using bad style. But your document or your program in this case, you can compile it with any Fortran compiler. It just makes you write prettier stuff. And I'm wondering if one could write something, well, theoretically one could, of course, but I don't know of anyone who has, do something similar for LaTeX, write some sort of processor which takes LaTeX and if it's fine, passes it through. If it's not, it complains. For example, if you've got a subscript and there are no curly braces, it will throw an error and make you put them in. and so on. And that way you wouldn't have to learn anything new. What you would be writing is just standard LaTeX, which you've been writing all your life, but you could be encouraged to write in a more semantic way. For example, forcing the curly braces around the subscripts and so on. And that might be, it would be probably very difficult to write, but on the other hand, anyone familiar with LaTeX could learn to use it very, very quickly, as opposed to using some completely new sort of markup. And LaTeX does have a rather large installed base. And I could even imagine a journal saying, well, you know, we continue to accept submissions in LaTeX, but they have to be in this subset of LaTeX, sort of semantically enhanced LaTeX, if you like. But once you've produced that document, anybody can process it on any LaTeX system anywhere. They wouldn't have to have the subset functionality at all. It's just a sort of help for the author.
I think that there may be a lot of mileage and benefit in having a restricted subset of LaTeX. That can
exactly.
And if it passes the machine check and there is a subsequent error, then that's a fault in the machine checking, not in the LaTeX. This relates to what Kelly was raising about, is it the user responsibility or the system responsibility? It should be the system's responsibility to report promptly and clearly errors in the user input. And once the system has had its one chance to do that, any further errors are the system's responsibility and bugs in the system.